Jim.
Standing my left to this stuff here. Senator Hamper, Representatives Rotundo and Gattin. My name is Ben Chin. I'm the Political Director of Maine People's Alliance. I am also here today to testify against the cuts to general assistance and anti-immigrant cuts that others have discussed earlier. And in order to just focus on what's new to the debate, I'm just going to provide a little bit of my personal take on this issue. And it centers around actually my grandfather's story of how he came to the U.S. He came in the 1930s as an immigrant from China, prior to the repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And as a 9-year-old boy with no parents and no money, no job, not speaking any English, there was basically no way that he entered the U.S. legally when he came here. Fortunately, his high school principal took him in and basically raised him as her son. And as a result, he went to college, served in World War II, and started a small business. And as a consequence, I'm standing before you here today because someone took a risk on him and didn't ask him about his immigration status and took the risk of investing in his life. So when I look back at that decade of the 1930s, I'm also struck with Frances Perkins, who was probably one of the most powerful women who Maine has ever sent to Washington, D.C., who was Secretary of Labor during the Depression and during the Holocaust. And she did everything in her power to bend and maybe even break rules to make sure that by 1937, over 250,000 Germans, primarily Jews, were accepted into the U.S. on temporary worker permits. And I think that the judgment of history is very clear on how we look back at what Frances Perkins did and at what that high school principal did for my grandfather. That there simply is not, this is not a dollars and cents issue. That on some level, as Representative Grant spoke to, I think pretty eloquently, this is fundamentally a moral question. So I agree with Mayor Brennan when he said earlier that this is probably the most important moral issue that you will face in your time here. And I think that's because it is the clearest example of a choice between a very difficult right and a very easy wrong that you could do. So I urge you today to please do what is right. Thank you for your time.